Let's kick it off real quick. And I want to start by defining team selling. So I'll bring that slide back up in a minute. But Kris, how do you define team selling as a leader?
So I think that there's been a big change over the last couple of years, but maybe over the last decade in terms of the way that people sell. It used to be lone wolf goes out, tries to spear the fish and land the fish and bring it into for everybody else to eat. Team selling, you got a lot more people involved in the deal internally, a lot more people who are interested in how they can support you from different angles, whether it's, giving you the competitive battle cards or doing executive sponsor calls or helping you just mirror what your buyer is doing with some internal plays. There's a number of different people across your business that are likely going to be involved in a deal. And that even includes like the relay system. And we talk about the BDR, SDR relay to the AE and the AE relay over to customer success and so on. There are just so many more players that you can get involved to try to bring things across the line a little quicker, a little more efficiently, and with a little more visibility across the business. That's team selling.
Faraz, in looking at this through the lens of bringing other team members in at the right times to help sell deals, how are you defining team selling at your team in Procurify?
Yeah, James, what Kris said obviously hits the nail on the head there. I think in addition to that, we oftentimes forget about the diversification that we have within our organizations and the different perspectives that brings as well. When we think about team selling here at Procurify, we have so many capabilities within our organization internally that we are doing a disservice if we're not leaning on. And I'm talking about all the different departments. Each individual within the department is going to look at something a little bit differently. And honestly, like to Kris's point about the lone wolf, we have blind spots when we're in alone, right? It just happens. It's organic. It's natural. It's the human element of it. So bringing in someone else that is potentially looking at it from a different lens opens up conversations, different questions are being asked, and hopefully the end result is we get everything out in the open on that first call.
And there may even be moments there where that person you've brought on has had an experience similar to what that seller has experienced, and this is the first time for them, so they can offer their, hey, last time somebody said that to me, I said this.
With the experience that individuals have dealing with their own prospects and customers, you start to get a really good feel about the trends and the themes that you would see on every single call. They're not all going to be the same, but usually there's a couple things that you can pull up. It still, for me, goes back to alignment as a leadership team, alignment as an organization, knowing that everyone is all willing to help out as a whole. I think in addition to that, for me, again, I'm just kind of reflecting on when we would bring in someone into the sales cycle, we try and do it as often as possible. What we've made the mistake about in the past is actually bringing someone in like a sales manager or legal or someone from marketing or product. We bring them in very late within our sales cycle. And at that point, there's a lot of areas that were missed during the discovery stage. And what we're really trying to put a big emphasis on is including as many people as possible, the right amount of people, of course, sooner rather than later within discovery, so that in that moment, in that first call, the perception from the prospect is looking at us to say, hey, we're all in. We can help you in various different areas. But in addition to that, it's let's figure out everything as much as possible that we can on the first call to help the later stages of that sales process be a lot more smoother.
Kris, thoughts on changing a process and getting the team bought into something new like team selling and knowing when to mark those points of entry for other entities coming into the conversation?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think process is often seen as a dirty word amongst the salespeople. It's kind of like, who was it? Was it Spreewell or I can't remember who it was, but practice. I went on a big rant on practice in the
Allen Iverson, Kris.
Allen Iverson.
We're talking about practice.
I knew it wasn't Spreewell. Thank you, AI. But I think the same thing is often said about process within an organization. Process, you want to talk about process? Right? People don't love having process in their sales org, but the reality is that the process is actually designed to streamline things, right? So in terms of like rules of engagement about bringing other people in from other parts of the business, one part of the business that I think is super underserved in terms of being leveraged is product, getting the product team involved.
Okay.
The other one that, as a CEO, it was like a massive epiphany for me is customer success.
We
And
talk about that a lot.
I mean, when you get a deal across the line and you throw it over the fence to CS and they haven't had any visibility into it, they basically have to resell about 10 to 15% of that deal in order to get it feeling right for that customer.
That's right.
When you bring them lockstep with you, the customer doesn't feel like you're, just throwing them to the wolves after you're done with them. They feel like you're actually partnering with them and delivering a solution that you started and that somebody else is finishing. And there's a very clear baton pass. That is a very, very important part, not just for getting the deal done, because it creates trust and understanding and confidence, but it also improves your chances of renewal and growth. And I know that sales reps don't always think about renewal and growth and churn and all of those different things with regard to accounts, because they don't typically get paid on that. But I can tell you right now, your boss thinks about it a lot. So, making sure that you have good rules of engagement for all the different parts of the business and how you're going to bring them in, and making sure that those people understand the value that they're delivering is really important. There was a comment around, like, I bring my data science team in, it's clunky and slow, and they don't seem to work at the same pace as me, kind of thing. If they understand the value behind what you're trying to do and your company is aligned around that value, they'll change. Look, I think that if people aren't willing to roll up their sleeves and support you, then you might have a cultural issue in terms of that person not being a cultural match. But certainly a couple of things that we are implementing at Duly that I think others might want to pay mind to. One is, we, at the end of every week, we are doing a series of wins, like wins across the sales team, and wins are not closed won. Those ones, we advertise that stuff, we broadcast that stuff all the time. Won this deal, won that deal. The wins at the end of the week are things where other people across the business have made a material impact in your ability to progress something. Things where you have actually seen a difference in your deal motion because of somebody else. And we want to shout out those wins and give them recognition, because oftentimes they're behind the scenes and feeling very under appreciated. The other thing that we're rolling out, which some of the people on the call that might be from Duly are going to hear for the first time, is we're putting in place a tip jar. And the tip jar is designed to celebrate the rest of the team. So everybody in sales has a comp program, right? Mm-hmm. And that comp program rewards their efforts and gets them topped up over top of their base for bringing deals across the line, or for booking demos, or for whatever you're getting compensated for. The rest of the organization doesn't. And we want to make sure that we reward them in some way, shape, or form. Tip jar does not mean that we're going to send you $50 in cash or $100 in cash for your participation in a deal. It means that we might send our engineering team a pizza party or a singing telegram or something like that, just to make sure that they are recognized for the hard work that they do that makes a material difference to our efforts in sales.
Yeah, I was just saying, it reminds me of my serving days. You say thanks, right? Like,
yeah, you tip out the dishwasher.
Yeah,
you tip out the dishwasher, you tip out the cooks, right?
The host, right? You tip out the host,
100%.
You buy your cooks dinner the next night. I was the recipient of many dinners for hooking people up and doing the right thing behind the counter in the kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, the territory plans it's an interesting model, but what it allows for is a group of individuals. For example, you could partner or pair up SDRs and BDRs with account executives, with a CSM, with an implementation manager within that as well. And that group, that core, gets to treat this territory as their own business, right? There's a sense of ownership, there's a sense of accountability, there's a sense of pride that comes with it as well. And it's we're all focused in the same areas. We get a lot of knowledge and learning in the territory that we're working in, because working in the East historically is evidently very different than maybe working in the West, with a lot of things that are happening just within the states and in themselves. The collaboration within those folks and the learning that happens and just the commitment, I found, is just very, very powerful. And I'll kind of leave it at that. It's a very, very good idea if it makes sense for the business.
So my team will back this statement up. I'm very much an analogy person. I use analogies all day long. A lot of them are sports analogies, but I also have a lot of historical quotes that I've learned over the years. And one of the ones that comes to mind for me is plan your work, work your plan, right? If you don't plan your work, then your plan is going to fall apart real quick. At Dooley, we've created micro clusters where we have AE BDR pairings, and they are very much responsible for a business plan as a team. There is no hierarchy. They just have different roles on the team, and they can bring in different resources. And we expect them, as they go and map out their plan across the accounts that they are pursuing, to give us a sense of what the contingencies on their performance will be. So what resources do they need? How much time do they need with their ABM team? How much time do they need with our product team? Who do they need from our product team? Why do they need them? Where are the gaps? All of those different things. Your territory plan is not just, these are the customers we're going to attack. It is way more in depth than that. It is truly about understanding the business that you are building, because it's a micro business unit within a bigger business, and how you can leverage the resources that you can quote unquote outsource to the rest of the team that's around you.
Good answer. Faraz.
Going back to me now, James?
Yeah.
I mean, to echo what
Rebuttal.
Kris said. Yeah, the rebuttal, I mean, there really is no rebuttal on it. I think if it makes sense within your sales organization to be able to structure something like it, I think there's a lot of benefits to almost like singular focus in a specific area of the business, in the specific territories that you're actually working as well. A lot of collaboration, a lot of teamwork. Again, I go back to just the accountability, ownership being absolutely huge.